Hakadosh, Boker Or, Masechet Ketubot Daf Nundaled Amud Aleph, 54a1. Says the Gemara, if you remember yesterday, we were talking about, right, that Rabbi Elazar comes and he asks the following question. Bat Shniya, when we're talking about a girl, right, that she was a Shniya La'arayot, that she got married to a man. Does she get mezonot or doesn't she get mezonot from the property or not? Do we say, since she does not get ketubah, let la mezonet, so she doesn't get mezonot? Or Dilmar, maybe we're going to say, Ima de avda isura, the mother did an isur, because the mother got married to this father, and the mother was a shniot larayot for the father. The Amri, because they say, Yatsa, right? Kesef Knasa Biktubata. That it's going to go out the Kesef Ktubata, right? With the Kesef of the Knas Biktubata. So, what is halacha? Right? Given the Letla Ketubah, do we say that since there's no Ketubah, Letla Mezoneh, there's no Parnasa? Or Dinmar, maybe Ketubah time. Am I once visiting the Ketubah? Imagine if a person could get rid of his wife without a Ketubah. You know what would happen? She would be a pair of shoes. Right? What happens? He doesn't like her today. She burned the adafina or whatever it is. Boom, throws her out. Right? A pair of socks. Yeah, just get rid of her and that's it. Right? Why? Because you want them to be right matching with all the clothing. Yeah, you heard. You want the socks to be matching the clothing. So what happens? So he comes and he says it's in order that a person shouldn't come and get rid of his wife so easily. But here he violated her. The fact that he violated her, he cannot get rid of her, even if he wanted to. So therefore, it has nothing to do with the ketubah or not. So teiku, again, we do not have an answer whether bata nusa gets mezonot or not. We do not have the answer. Fine. Says the Gemara, At tehen yatva beveti umitzanza minichsai kol yemei megal menutech beveti. Do you know that when she becomes a widow, which means that when a woman becomes a widow, which means right? A woman becomes a widow, which means that the husband dies. She's allowed to partake in the food of the house as long as she's a widow. The second that she gets married, right? Hasta la vista. Yeah, outside of the house. That's it. Why? Because as long as she's still the widow of Mr. So-and-so, she gets the food from Mr. So-and-so. The second that she gets married, right? What? The Mr. So-and-so has to pay for her second marriage. Right? It has nothing to do with the second marriage. It has nothing to do with the first marriage. Some people, they like to double dip. Right? So they want to both. No. The second that she comes and she gets married, out. She's nothing to do with the first husband. Right? She's completely outside. So Tani Rav Yosef, Rabbi Yosef comes and he taught, what does it mean, beveiti? Right? What does it mean, beveiti, exactly in my house? Because he said, kol megar al menutech beveti. As long as you're going to be an almana in my house. What did he mean by the word in my house? Velo bevikti, but not in a tzri, which means that if the husband comes and he left over a very big house, right? They force the yorshim to give her a house according to her kavod. And they cannot come and tell her, go to your father's house and we'll give you parnasah there. Right? You have to remember, sometimes it's not even their mother. Sometimes it could happen that the mother passed away, right? And then the husband gets married to a second wife. And all of a sudden, right now, he's obviously much older. And he dies. And now the second wife is there. Now these children are not even her children. So they don't want to come and start giving her parnasah. So they come and they say, you know what, you go back to your father's house, right? And we'll give you food there. No. If the husband left over a big house and things like that, they have to give her a house according to her kavod. That's what it says.
Not an efficiency.
Exactly. Not just some, and that's it. Okay? Aval mizonot. Itla. But the mizonot, she does get. So more Baravashi Amar, more Baravashi says, even mizonot she does not get, because the chiyuv of mizonot and the chiyuv of living is talui zebazeh, which means since the yorshim are pturim to give her a house, so to their pturim also for giving her parnasah. The halacha is not like more Baravashi. Fine. Next. Amar Rav Nachman Amar Shmuel. Says Rav Nachman in the name of Shmuel. Tavua li nasevni paisa. Imagine right now that they were Tavua li naseh, right? He comes and he tells her, I want to get married to you. And she says yes, right? She actually did say yes, right? You know, there's a famous thing. No, she said yes. You know, it's a miracle. Yeah? She said yes. So what happened is that he asks her, do you want to get married to her? Yeah. She says yes. En la mezonot. She still does not get mezonot. Why? He says because there was still no ketubah, right, until the actual marriage. So just the fact of tabu alina 70 paisa, that's still not enough. Okay, it has to be a real marriage, and only afterwards is it going to be like that. So says the Gemara, halonit paisa. What happens if she didn't want? Meaning she didn't say yes. Yesh la mezonot. It's much of the what? That she gets mezonot. How could it be? Right? It doesn't make sense. It's not misaber. So Amar Ravanan, it's not logical to say that. So Amar Ravanan says, Shmuel, can you explain this to me? She said like this. If she says, Mechamat Ploni Bali, if she says, right, he went and he told her, do you want to get married to it? She said, no. Why? Because of the kavod of my husband, yesh la mezonot. She does get mezonot. Which means like this. Somebody comes to her and she says, you want to get married to me? So she says, no. Why don't I want to get married? Because her first husband just passed away. It's not the kavod. She cannot. So then she still gets mezonot. But if it's mechamat b'nei adam shelo megudim la, ein la mezonot. What happens if she says, really, Bemet, she does want to get married again? But she comes and she says, listen, who's asking me to get married? This guy. So then
Not my level.
It's not my level. So then she doesn't get mezonot anymore. That means basically, again, remember, we're talking about
even if she doesn't get married to the new guy.
Even if she doesn't get married to the new guy.
Because of the demand.
Just because of the demand, which means that it's the second that they come and they demand her, do you want to get married to me? So now it all depends. If it's that she rejects because of the kavod of the first husband, so she still gets the parnasah. She still gets food from the first husband. But if she rejects the demand only because that it's not matim la, it's not her kavod, who's asking her to get married? No. So that she doesn't get many more, right? Which one? Amar Rav Chasta. Says Rav Chasta, zinta en la mezonot. What happened if she fooled around when she was an almana? Meaning she was an almana, but then okay, she didn't go get married, but she went with somebody. Yeah, she went with somebody. So what happens? He says, en la mezonot. Amar Rav Yosef, says Rav Yosef, kichlau pirkesa en la mezonot. Not only that, even if she beautifies herself, she doesn't get mezonot anymore.
That's too much.
That means mama, she comes and she makes
cannot
herself
put
beautiful.
any makeup.
Yeah, makeup and all these things. That's why, because that means that she already wants to get married. That means she's already like as if to say going on. Because if Be'emet was the kavod of the husband, she wouldn't beautify herself anymore. For what?
According to Rabbi Yosef.
This is Rav Yosef. So Madamar Zinta, according to the Madamar that says that if she was Zinta, Kol Sheken Kicha Prekesa, then all the more so that she's going to lose the mezonot. But according to the Madamar Kicha Prekesa, Zinta Itla, she does get it. Why? My Tama, Yetzeransa, the Yetzerera calls her to do znut. What does that mean? Once she tasted what it is the concept of marital relations, it's very difficult for her afterwards to, she's lonely. She wants to, she wants something. So therefore, right, it's important for her just to have that in mind. Says the Gemara, the halacha is not like any of these braitas, but even if she had relations, and even if she went and she put on makeup, and even if she said that she would get married to a third person, she still gets mezonot.
That's halacha lemaise.
Yes, ella rather, ki hada amar Rabbi Yehuda ben Shmuel, just like Rabbi Yehuda ben Shmuel says, hatovat keduvata bedin en la mezonot. But if she's going to come and she's going to say that she's tovat ketubata bedin, which means she's coming and she's saying
she's going to cash out.
Exactly. So he says over here, she does not, right? She does not get the ketubah anymore. Why? Because once she asks for a ketubah, she doesn't get any mezonot. Because now she's asking for a ketubah. She's cashing out
ahead of time.
Ahead of time. So says the Gemara, velo and not. Atanya, we learned in the Braita. Machra ketubata, mashkena ketubata. What happens if she sells her ketubah, or she put it as a collateral as ketubata apotiki lacher, or she made it like an apotiki? Apotiki is like that she's designated like it's like a yeah, like hypothèque, exactly. That's what it is in French, Spanish, hypothèque, right? All these things. Right? That she's like making it on a lien. En la mezonot. She doesn't get in mezonot. Hani in only these things. Aval tova, no. But if she's tova ketubata and she still didn't collect it, she doesn't lose her rights of mezonot. So answers the Gemara. Hani bem vetin vem shlo bedin. These ones, whether it's in bedin or in not bedin, is salacha. But tovat bevetin in shelo bevetin lo, which means if she's tovat ketubata, only if she's tova bevetin, then she loses out her rights on mezonot. But if she's not tova bevetin, she does not lose her rights on mezonot. Says the ketubah. If you remember, there were three different places. There was Yerushalayim, right, Yehuda, and the Galil. So here it says, here in Yerushalayim, this is what they used to write to their wives, right? But Anshe Yehuda would write, which means it all depends on the Yorshim. Which means the Yorshim could come and say, you know what? This woman is costing us too much money. You know what? We want to lower, low cost. You know how you do that? Here's your ketubah. They give her the ketubah and they tell her, hasta la vista, it was nice knowing you. Yeah. So in Yehuda, they were able to do that. They were able to basically buy out the almanah, say, here's your ketubah, goodbye. That's what they were able to do. Itmari was stated. Rav Amar Rav says, halacha is like Anshe Yehuda. Shmuel Amar Shmuel says, no, the halacha is like Anshe Galil. Bavel v'chol parvaha nahu kirav. In Bavel, and in all the vicinities of Bavel, they used to do like Rav, which means like Anshe Yehuda. That means basically they would get rid of her. But in Neharda, in all the vicinities of Neharda, Nahuki Shmuel, they used to do like Shmuel. So it's very interesting because you see here that it all depends on the two different rabbis that were arguing. In their vicinities, they did like that rabbi. So Rav, they did like Rav. In Shmuel, they did like Shmuel. So it all depends where you were. There was a woman that she was from Mechuza, right, which is basically close to Bavel, which they would do like Rav, that she was married to somebody from Neharda that does like Shmuel. What happens? So now the question is, the husband died. So now the Yerushim, they want to come and they want to get rid of her. Now remember that according to Shmuel, you can't do that. But according to Rav, you could do that. Now she came from the place of Rav, but they're actually living in Neharda. So Atu lekameder of Nachman, they came in front of Nachman. Shama lekala, he realized from her voice, debat mechuzah, that she's from the accent. That means they realize, they know exactly where she's from. Like for example, sometimes you hear French. You already know they're Canadians. Why? It's not a real French. They could tell by the accent immediately, right? Boom, right? In 2 seconds, they're able to know it. So he comes and he says, so Shama lekala, so Amalehu, he came and he said, Bavel v'chol parva nahu kirav. Amrule, they said, yeah, v'hal Neharda nasiv, but she got married to a person from Neharda. So Amalehu, he says, Yachi, if so, Neharda v'chol parva nahu kishmuel. They have to go like Shmuel. Okay? Vadhecha Neharda. Right? So he says, so until where is the area of Neharda? Adhecha desagi kaba de Neharda. As long as they're going to come, they're going to measure with like Neharda, which means that you see that, remember that here, Bavel and Neharda, these are two different places in Bavel. And you see that they had different measures in the same country. Right? That means you could tell that in the same country, they were using different denominations that you usually don't have. Like in the same country, usually you will always have the same currency, the same measurements, the same everything. Here you're seeing in the same country, what is Neharda? Wherever they used to use the measures of Neharda. Where is Bavel and all the rest? That's where they used to use it different. So it's a different type of weights, right? They used to use in different places. Itmar, it was stated, Almanah, right? To do with an almanah. Rav Amar Rav says, Shamin ma she'aleha. Right? What does that mean? Right? Shamin ma she'aleha means that we're going to come and we're going to evaluate that which is on top of her, right? Which means that we're going to actually evaluate what is the clothing, and we're going to take that away from the ketubah. I mean, she has clothing. We're going to say, okay, the dress that you have, it's from,
husband, so it's
but it's a very expensive dress. You know what I'm saying? It's
Valentino.
Valentino, and I don't even know the names. So I'm talking from the doctor. Yeah, for sure. Yeah, so which means that since it's like that, so he comes and he says, right? He comes
from China.
So exactly, it wasn't from China. It was a very expensive dress. So they come and they deduct it from the ketubah. Shmuel says, "En shami mashallah." No, whatever she's wearing, she takes with her. You can't. You cannot deduct it from her ketubah. That which is she's wearing. Who
said you deducted?
Rav. Okay. Amar Rav Chia Barabi. It says Rav Chia Barabi. Bechilufa belakit. The opposite is going to be belakit. What does that mean? If he bought the balabai begadim during the time that he was working, right? And then he comes and he wants to, let's say, for example, somebody is working for you, right? You're the boss, somebody's working for you. And now he wants to go out with the clothing. Rav holds that the lakit is the guy that's working for you, that he's collecting the fruits and vegetables, whatever it is. He's zocheh, and therefore everything is 100% from his. And you cannot take it out from his reward. But that's also only an almanach can you do that, but not for the lakit. So it comes out the exact opposite by lakit, which means it is. Sometimes you come, right, and you get clothing for your workers. Why? Right? You want here food art. You understand? You want that it should be written that everyone knows, right, that you're working for them. So you come, you buy it for them, and all of a sudden the guy is leaving you. So then you come and say, once, I owe you, right, whatever it is. Now you want the shirt, right? It's an expensive shirt. La creme de la creme. It's a hierarchy, right? So what happens? You have to pay money. So I'm going to deduct it from your wage. Says Rav, here it's the opposite from the almanah. From the almanah, right? From the almanah, according to Rav, you deduct. According to Shmuel, no. By the lakit, but the guy that's working for you, the opposite. According to Rav, you do not, and according to Shmuel, you do. Rav Kahana matne v'chem belakit. Rav Kahana, though, had a different version. He didn't say v'chilufe belakit, it's the opposite shita by the lakit. He said v'chen. V'chen means exact same halacha. Meaning, Rav said by an almanah that you evaluate and you deduct it from the ketubah, so too by the lakit, the same thing, salamem shos, right? By Shmuel, it's exact opposite. That means it's the same halacha, it's not the opposite. Okay? Umanach basiman, and he put a siman. What is a siman? Yatma ve'armelata shalach upuk. What does that mean? They're going to come to a yatom, because usually the yatom, the orphan, was the one that he was a lakit. He would sell himself off, right, very young age, in order to collect, to collect the money and all these things, right? Yeah. And he comes and he says, and the armelata. What is the armelata? The almanah. Shalach upuk, which means take off their clothing and send them away, which means, right, that the clothing is not theirs. So therefore, that's why Rav came and he made a siman that the clothing that they're wearing is not even theirs. So for you could actually tell them, now you have to change, because the clothing that you have is not yours. Imagine you have a boss here. I'm going to say, yeah, that's the way it is. 100%. Having the shoe. 100%. Yeah. Fine. Amar Rav Nachman, says Rav Nachman, Afagav Ditram Matita, even though we learned in our Mitzini Kavatei the Shmuel like Shmuel, Hilchata Kavatei the Rav, the halacha is still going to be like Rav. The Tram, as we learned in our Mishnah in Nechin, Echad HaMakdish Nechasav ve'Echad HaMarich et Atzmo. If a person is going to come and he's going to consecrate all his properties to Bedek HaBayit, or he's going to come and he's going to evaluate, he's going to make a neder of the Erech HaBatzmo, En lo lo b'ksut ishto ve'lo b'ksut banav, he does not even get in even the clothing of his wife and children are not his, and therefore the Gizbar cannot come and take it away from him because they belong to the wife and the children. Lo betzeva shetzava, not in the tzeva that they came and they actually painted a lishman, or whatever. Why? Because once they're in the chazakah, the wife and the children, they belong to them. So this is our chachad from the Mishnah to the Svarav Shmuel. The bigdei ishto shela, they're hers, and they do not belong to him. So therefore, that's Shmuel. So therefore, that's what he's saying over here. Okay.
What about the Judas?
Also, Amal Rava Nachman says Rava to Rav Nachman. This is 1 second. I don't understand you. You just told me that even though we have a Mishnah like Shmuel, the halacha is like Rav, and then we brought the Mishnah like Shmuel. Doesn't make sense. What is Afagav? You just told me I have a Mishnah Mefurash, right? Mishnah Mefureshet, like Shemuel. So passing like Shemuel. Well, you tell me no. Even though we have a Mishnah Mefureshet like Shemuel, we passing like who? Like Rav. Why? So says the Gemara, Elmaleh lichora ki Shmuel rita. No, because it looks like it's like Shmuel. Meaning when you read the Mishnah, it looks like it's going like Shmuel. But when you actually read the Mishnah, the Mishnah actually is telling you that the halacha is like Rav. My time I was reasoning, he akni la because he was makne to her. Adaita lamekan kameh because he wants her to be by him. Adaita lamishkan but not to go out, which means like this. If you come and you buy your wife a dress, do you want it to be hers? Obviously, because you want her to wear the dress when she's with you. But if you right now know you're going to give her the boot, you're listening, you're going to give her the boot, yeah? Do you think that you're going to come and you're going to buy her clothing and you want it to be for her? Obviously not, right? You want her to get rid of her. You want it for yourself. You don't want it not for her. So same thing. So because of that, he says, if it's that she's going to leave, he's not going to buy her clothing in order that she should leave him. He's not going to start supporting her if she's not going to be by him. So therefore, it's not going to be hers. So it all depends on the circumstances. Meaning, if she's staying married to him, so then yes, it belongs to her. And therefore, even though he's going to come and he's going to consecrate all his properties to the Bet HaMikdash, her clothing belongs to her. The children's clothing belongs to them. But if right now she's leaving him, all the clothing right? He's not giving it to her. What's so funny? Yeah, the boot. Yeah? Okay, fine. Says the Gemara, Kalata de Bar Eliashiv, the Kala of the family of Bar Eliashiv. She was asking for the ketubot from the Yitomim. Right? Le Beidina. So what happened was they were coming to the Bedin. Amri, and they said, Zila lan milta de tizli achi. It says it's a bizayon, right? That you're going to go into the Bedin with such bad clothing. Yeah. She went and she put all the clothing that she can. So they went to the front of Ravina. Amalu, and he says, so therefore they're going to check everything. So for also this thing, they're going to come and then they're going to take off, right, of the portion of the ketubah. So basically they thought to themselves, listen, very, very simple. She's got clothing in the cupboard. If we're going to take that and sell that, we're hardly going to make any money. So what did they do? They went and they told her, listen, it's a bizayon, what? It's a disgrace. You're going to go to Bedin like that. You should come with nice clothing, all good. So she went, she put on her lower clothing. She comes to the Bedin. Bedin say, 1 second. This is worth this is worth this, this is worth this. Boom. Wallo, you get nothing of the ketubah. They were all, right? They're all happy. Yeah, they were smart. Hahud amar lehu. There was somebody that he went and told his mishpacha in a tzava v'shchiv mina. Remember that he used to give a tzava. Tzava is like a will, a testament. So they went and he said, Nedunya librat. He wanted to give a Nedunya, a dowry, to his daughter. Zal Nedunya, right? But now it went down. So Amar Avidi Baravin, Turna liatme. So now the Yitomim gained, which means that the daughter is not going to now get the regular Nedunya. She's going to get less. In the olden days, if let's say a wedding would cost 100,000, and now came the virus, the corona, and now weddings are now 50,000 because people realize you're not supposed to spend so much money on weddings. So what happens? So now she only gets 50. She doesn't get the 100 anymore.
Or you raise the price of the
catering.
Okay.
Oh, that they always do. Fine. Ha'ud amar lehu. He comes and he says, Ha'ud amar lehu. Somebody comes and he says, Nundala demubet. Arba me'azuze min chamra lebrat. There's 400 zuz from this wine that's going to go to his daughter as an edunya. Yakar chamra, and all of a sudden became more expensive. Amar of Yosef says of Yosef, Rav Chaliatme. It goes to the revach, the appreciation of the value goes to the Yitomim. Meaning he went and he said 400 zuz, but now all of a sudden it costs now 800 zuz, right? Gas went up in prices like crazy, right? Thanks to our Big J, right? And right, and what happens is, right? What happens all of a sudden now, who gets that appreciation? The Yitomim get it. It's not her, it's the Yitomim. Krivet Rabbi Yochanan havale itat iba, abba. So it says over here like this. He says, the family members of Rabbi Yochanan, they had the wife to their father. That she was just eating a lot. Understand? Remember, in the olden days, right, a beautiful woman is not a woman that's anorexic. A beautiful woman was ba'alat basar, that she had some meat. Right? Nowadays, it's the exact opposite. But once upon a time, right, the beautiful woman was a woman that she was a little bit more full. You understand? That there's at least something there. Right? So he says like this. So he says, Atu lekamed Rabbi Yochanan. So he says, Right? He says they came in front of Rabbi Yochanan. Amar lehu, so they went and he told them. He says, very simple. You know how to get out of this problem. Tell your father to designate a field just for her mizonot. Why? Because that means once that field leaves, once there's no more, that's it. They will designate it for mizonot. That's it. So Atul Kamed Rosh Hashanah, she came in front of Rosh Hashanah. Amar lehu, he says, Kol sheken shribala mizonot. The opposite. If he designated her a field, it means that he wanted her to have even more mizonot. So Amruleh, they said, what? Rabbi Yochanan didn't tell us that. What are you talking about? We went to Rabbi Yochanan, and Rabbi Yochanan told us to designate the field in order to make her less mizonot, not more mizonot. What's going on? Amar lehu, he said, Zilu habula, go give her. Milo, and if not, I'm going to take out the words of Rabbi Yochanan from your ears. Right? So what happened? So he says, which means I'm going to put you in a cherem. Right? So he comes and he says, they went from Rabbi Yochanan. Amar lehu ma'aseh. He went and he said, what am I going to do to you? Meaning they went back to Rabbi Yochanan and they said, what's going on? So he said, listen, what am I going to do? They argue on me. Who argues on me? Shakish, my friends. So what am I going to do? Right, he just left to the. So Amar Rabbi Avhu says Rabbi Avhu Ledim Vashalemine Rabbi Yochanan. From me was explained to me that was Rabbi Yochanan says. Amar, he went and he said lemizonot. Right, if he went and he gave the karka and he wrote down lemizonot, ribala mizonot. He's giving her more mizonot. Amar bimzonot, which means as a chov for the mizonot, katzatz la mizonot. He gave her a ketzitza. He gave her a set amount for the mizonot. Meaning it all depends on the terminology. It's less. It all depends on terminology. Which means if he says for the mizonot, he's giving her more mizonot. If he says with the mizonot, right there, it's exactly. It's all right. Nara shenitpatet. New perek, new chapter. Chapter 5. Perek hamishi. Af al pi she'amru. Says the Mishnah. Af al pi she'amru. Even though they went and they said betula gova matayim, that a betula is going to get 200 zuz, in her ketubah almana gets 100. Imratza leosif afilu mea mana yosif. If he wants to add on, he could add on whatever. And that's why nowadays sometimes you have in the ketubah. That's why sometimes you have in the ketubah. I've been into a ketubah, $500 and something $1,000. Right, another one, $200 and something $1,000. Understand? They're giving big amounts. You understand? That means we're talking about big amounts of money. Huh? Yes, imratza leosif afilu mea mana. Even if it's going to be a mea mana, even if it's going to be 100 mana, we'll see if you're allowed to. Nitar melao, nitgarsha. What happens if she becomes widowed or divorced? Ben mina erusin, doesn't matter whether it's from the erusin or nusin. Gova et hakol, she gets all the money, everything. Rabbi says no. If she was 100% married, she gets everything. But from the erusin. Which means like this. Remember that there's two stages of marriage. There is nisuin and erusin. Erusin is the first stage, which is kiddushin. Kiddushin and erusin, right? The engagement. What we call it, but it's really not gets 100%, marriage. So what happened is that he already gives her the ketubah. When he gives her the ketubah, she only gets a 200 and 100. Why? Because that is for a betula and for an almanah. Right? You get 200 and 100. The extras is only if he actually really got married to her. Why? Because only if he actually really got married to her, that's when he wanted to give her the extras. So all the extras only come. So all the bonuses, the 500,000, 200,000, 100,000, that's only if it's from Nisuin. If it's from Erusin, it does not come. Rabbi Yehuda says, if he wants, he could write her a ketubah of 200. She could say, I will receive from you 100. And almana 100. Then I received 50 zuz. Rabbi Meir Omer says, Rabbi Meir, if you write less for a betula 200 and less for a mana, it's considered znut. What does that mean? According to Shittat Rabbi Meir, if you are going to come and you're going to undercut and you're going to give her less than what she's supposed to, you're having immoral relations your entire life with her. Powerful words. Yeah? Says the Gemara. Pshita. It's obvious. What does that mean? If you want to add on to your ketubah, you could always add on to ketubah. You could come and you could add on to ketubah, whatever you want. So says the Gemara, no, I would have thought say kitzuta abdura banan. That the rabbis came and they made a special kitzpah. I think that's what he was trying to say. Why don't they make a special amount that you can't go more than that? Yeah, so he says not to embarrass somebody that doesn't have
a minimum amount.
No, but a maximum
standard.
A standard amount. So why? Because this guy doesn't have money. So now he feels bad. There's the other guy that just got married last night in the same Bet Knesset. He went and he gave 500,000, and the next day because she has 18 or whatever it is, they start saying, "Oh, what's going on? What? He doesn't like his wife. He doesn't this. What's going on?" So you would have thought to say that the rabbis made a ketzita in order shelo levesh misheno. Kamashmalan says the Mishnah, you're allowed to add whatever you want. There's no such thing as a ketzita here. Here you can add whatever you want. You could just add and get, show off anything that you want. Right? But you have to be careful that you have the money. There was a famous case that came in front of Rabbi Yashiv. A guy came and he said $1 million. He was an avrech. He had nothing to his name. Right? And then afterwards he actually got divorced. Now she's asking, no, $1 million. Now what happens? So there's the other cases that we spoke about before, at least they have money. Or if it's not them, at least it's a parent. It's a big balagan. It's a big problem.
So he has to
He says, if he wants to add, so Ratzah lichtov la lo katani. It doesn't say Ratzah lichtov la if you wanted to write it, right? But rather Ratzah leosif if you wanted to add it on. What does that mean? That we're talking about that it's a tosefet on the ketubah that the rabbi is added on, and it has the din of the ketubah itself. Which means any t'nai of the ketubah is like the ketubah itself. This is a t'nai. What does it mean? It's like a t'nai. You're adding on, but the t'nai ketubah is like ketubah. Okay, so nafkamina. What's a nafkamina? He says nafkamina lemocheret, lemoredet, ulpogemet. Yeah, right. Look at all these things, and there's more. There's tovat. What is the nafkaminas? Listen very, very careful. We're talking about here tosefet, right? The tosefet of the din of the ketubah. What is an nafkamina? Right? There's going to be 14 halachot. Listen to the 14 halachot. Listen carefully. Number one, mocheret. If she's going to sell the ketubah, also the tosefet is part of the ketubah as well. So she sold her ketubah. The tosefet ketubah is also the ketubah. Even if it's just verbal, but she's so tosefet. Number two, mochelet. If she forgives her ketubah, she forgave the tosefet ketubah as well. Number three, moredet. If she doesn't give her husband relations. Remember that if a woman doesn't give her husband relations, they go to the bedin and they start removing money from her ketubah. Why? She's moredet. She's rebelling against her husband.
And when she start back again, they give her back the money.
Which one?
If she start back again to be with him, they give her back the money.
No, then they stop. Which one? What's new? Right? She's moredet. Moredet means that she's rebelling against her husband. So she comes, right? No. What happened? You're yeah. So one second, we're almost. And then he says over here, pogemet. What is pogemet? A woman that she comes and she's agreeing that she already received part of the ketubah, and the husband comes and he says, "No, I paid the entire thing." So he comes and he says she doesn't get the rest of it. Why? Because that's called pogemet, right? It's defecting it. Tova'at. What does it mean? She comes to the bedin and she says, "I want my ketubah." So therefore, it's the same halakha would apply that even if she's only asking for the tosefet, because the tosefet of the ketubah is like the ketubah. Number 6, right? Overet al dat. If she's going against that Moshe v'Yudit, which means that she doesn't go according to the halakha, she doesn't cover her hair, or she doesn't do all these things. So then what happens? Also, she loses out not only on her ketubah, she loses out on the tosefet ketubah as well. And then there's going to be another thing until 14, and all the differences that we're saying that they're all the same halachot tosefet in the ketubah. And